Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today. It is Tuesday, August 10th. If you're watching this in the future, now you know when we recorded. And this is our monthly library program, What Are You Reading?, where we talk about different books that the librarians here at Genesee District Library have been reading and enjoying what they recommend to you. And if you are watching this, please feel free to leave a comment about any of the books we talk about or anything that you're currently reading if you have any suggestions yourself. I know someone before this is early this morning, they left a comment saying they were about to start Honor Bound by Brendan Novak. So thanks, Marie, for leaving that comment. Let us know what you think about it, if you enjoyed that or what your thoughts are as you read it. All right. With that being said, we have, looks like 12 books to talk about here today. So we will kind of dive right in. We'll start at the top with Chris. What book do you want to talk about first?
Am I muted?
No, you're good. You're good.
No, I'm good. Okay. All right. The first book I'm going to talk about is The Secret Book in Scone Society by Ellery Adams. This was my very first cozy mystery that I borrowed from Libby. So I really liked it. The theme was kind of book club theme. These three ladies got together. They live in this small town, and they got together to discuss books, but then it ended up being, they're going to solve a mystery. So it had a hint of cooking in it because one of the ladies is a baker. The other lady is a bookstore owner, and I forget what the other two people did, but it was light reading that kept my attention. Nora Pennington was the bookstore owner, and she's a former librarian. So she makes friends with these other ladies and in this small town called Miracle Springs in North Carolina. Immediately in the story, a traveling salesman is found dead, and Nora and her newfound friends set about the task of solving why he was murdered. I'm new to cozy mysteries, so this was, a whole new kind of thing for me. I totally enjoyed it. The setting was fun. The description of the food was fun. Watching these ladies form a friendship was fun. And Nora actually lives in a tiny house, so where she stored things and kept things. And as her friends would come in and get to know her and see that she stored her cups underneath this table was really kind of cool and fun for me as well. And I love it when they talk about food in books. And so every time the one character talked about what she was baking, that always made me hungry. And so I would give this book 4 stars, and I'm happy to see that there's a book 2 coming.
Would you try other cozy mysteries now? I know we have a lot of fans in the library who enjoy the cozy mysteries.
I absolutely will read another one. Yes, because I enjoyed it a lot.
Something I want to mention too is you mentioned you read this on Libby, which is our digital ebook service. And if you want to learn more about that, you can do so at the link there below, or leave a comment here and we can help you out getting set up with Libby. Okay, let's see, Nancy. Let's go with you next. What do you want to talk about first?
I'm going to talk about Lisa Scottolini's Eternal. It came out in March. You can probably get it on the shelf now at GDL. I know our copy's on the shelf now. There's still some holds on it. But this is a book taking place right before World War I. It's historical fiction, and she did her history. It's fueled by real life events. And it's about 3 friends. There is Elisabetta, who likes Marco and Sandro. They grew up together, and they're now in their senior year of high school. And Mussolini is aligning himself with Hitler. And in the beginning of the story, he's just announced that Jews may no longer be students in schools or teach in the schools. And that also pertains to college. So this has just happened, and the Jews have assimilated into Italy forever and ever. So it's a shock to everyone. And there's also a love triangle. Both Marco and Sandro like Elisabetta. So there's that going on. But and then there's a lot of the history. I've just started it. I'm about a quarter through it, and like there's this feeling of dread, like, oh no, what's going to happen? So, but it's really good. There's a lot going on in it, and it's a really good story. So I would recommend that if you like historical fiction, and I read a lot of that. It just lets you know what those times were like.
You know, you and Sherry both enjoy a lot of historical fiction, so that's
Yes.
another good recommendation in that category. Kristen, let me bring you up. I think you notice that there's a theme with the books that you're going to talk about this month.
Yeah. So I read a lot of thrillers this month, and I really don't know why, other than these are all like new books that came out recently this summer. So the first one I want to talk about is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. He's a Greek writer. As most of you know, he has a very well-known book called The Silent Patient. And I actually didn't realize this because I've not read The Silent Patient, but there is a character in The Silent Patient that is also in The Maidens. And so you might want to read The Silent Patient before you read this one, but if you haven't already. I have not read The Silent Patient yet. But I think it might have a little bit of a spoiler if you haven't read it. So just FYI. So in The Maidens, our main character is Mariana, and she is a therapist, a group therapist specifically, and she has a niece who her name is Zoe, and she goes to Cambridge University. And there is this handsome and charismatic Greek tragedy professor at the university who is like adored by staff and students, and everybody loves him. And he is kind of like in charge of this secret society of all female students known as the Maidens. And they kind of are all like these beautiful girls, and her niece Zoe is kind of like, you know, I don't really trust them, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, one of Zoe's friends is found murdered, and Mariana goes up there to kind of console Zoe, but then also becomes involved in the investigation because she's a therapist. So somehow that means she's also like able to solve murders, which I don't really understand. But anyways, she becomes convinced that this Greek tragedy professor is also murdering these girls because all of the girls that are found murdered are also part of the Maidens. So it's kind of like she becomes obsessed with trying to prove this professor's guilt, but then it kind of like backfires on her, of course, because as we all know, if we've all read thrillers before, that's kind of what happens. So yeah, it's all about trying to solve this mystery and of like who's killing these girls. And of course there's like some twists and turns and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And also there's the this theme of Persephone, who's also the maiden, going on too, because of course we can't have a Greek tragedy professor without having some Greek mythology thrown in. So yeah, it's a pretty good book. I don't know what I was expecting. It wasn't this, but I mean, I liked it. I liked it enough to finish it. So.
Are these the types of books you would say that you normally read, or I guess what? Yeah.
Yeah, I like thrillers. My coworker and Sarah, she says we like the dark and twisty books, which yeah, we do. So yes, I would normally read those. I just don't know if I liked his writing style. Like, I don't know, but it was an interesting concept.
Awesome. All right, Sherry, we have you up next. What do you want to talk about first?
I want to talk about My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. It is a psychological thriller. The husband who narrates the story and is unnamed throughout the whole book, which I found odd. By the end of the book, you still don't know his name. And his wife, Millicent, have been married for 15 years, and they have 2 teenage children. They seem to be a normal upper middle class family who eats dinner together every night. But people will do many things to keep a marriage alive, and this couple is no exception. The weird thing that they do, though, is they kill people together. It seems like he does the kind of detective work and figuring out who it might be, and the wife does the dirty work, so to speak. I don't want to give too much because I feel like if I say too much, it'll give away a lot, but this book's diabolical. It's twisted. You won't want to put it down, and you'll be completely shocked at some of the revelations. And the ending was I just kind of sat there with my mouth hanging open. It wasn't what I expected, but I will definitely read more books by her. I think she has 2 more. And those made it to my list after this one.
So this is the first one of hers that you read?
It is.
All right. Well, that's a good endorsement then, if you want to check out the rest of her works. We started with the cozy mystery and really ramped up the excitement there, the tension, and the diabolicalness. Let's see what Chris wants to talk about next then.
I'm going to talk about next is actually a follow-up to when I met with you guys in June, and I totally missed this in July when I was on vacation. So the follow-up is to The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. So when we met in June, I hadn't read it yet, but I was looking forward to reading it. And I might have prefaced that mysteries really aren't my genre. But I gave this book 5 stars. It totally captivated me, and it has set me on a journey to read mysteries. So I think I've read 3 mysteries since I finished this book in early July, which is kind of crazy. But anyway, the main characters in this book, I think I had mentioned before, are in their 70s. They're well developed, and they're fantastic to read about. They're just so like they're people that come to visit the library. They're just so well developed. What I really enjoyed about this particular mystery was that the author didn't make you hold out to the end to figure things out. Not that we were figuring it out as we read it, but that he filled in the blanks as you went and then added other new little mysteries along the way. So it takes place in a retirement village in the United Kingdom. So there was a little bit of jargon throughout the story that was unfamiliar, but easily figured out. And then I was also super thrilled to find out that a second book starring these characters is scheduled to drop in September. So I got to tell you, you got to read the Thursday Murder Club. It's just an awesome book.
It's a pretty good endorsement too, if to make you look into more mysteries and kind of change, a genre you're not normally really into. Also, I feel like it's always good when you're looking forward to a book, and then if it lives up to that hype and excitement, right? Like would you say that it was kind of what you were hoping it was when you looking forward to it for so long?
Well, that's an interesting question to ask me, because actually this, every once in a while on my Facebook, I'll say, hey, what is everybody reading? Because I'm looking for different things to read, especially to contribute, to this great program that we do. And a classmate from high school recommended this to me. And so I was like, oh, here we go again with this. You got to read these books by men because you're a woman type thing. I think I've talked to you about that before, Ryan. And so I haven't read a mystery in so long that I just kind of was like, well, whatever, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to read this book. And so it was pleasantly a 5-star book for me. So I'm happy I did it.
Well, there you go. That worked out then.
Yeah.
All right. Nancy, what do you want to talk about next?
Oh, I bounced around a little bit. I read a biography by Hilary Burton Morgan called The Rural Diaries, Love, Livestock, and Big Life Lessons Down on Mischief Farm. Hilary Burton was a One Tree Hill star, and she ended up being with and having children with Jeffrey Dean Morgan. So it was interesting to me. I got a little slice of his life as well in this. And they went from owning a home and meeting each other in LA to buying a home, where was it? Upstate New York, it just says. So Rhinebeck, New York, that's where it was. And Hilary was raised kind of outdoorsy. She knew how to cook and sew and garden and she knew about cats and dogs, but they went all in on this farm. I forgot how many acres it was, but they end up with alpacas and cows and sheep and chickens and geese and all kinds of stuff, cats and dogs and everything. And she does a lot of home improvement, which I like to read about also. And like I said, they talk about the shows that they're filming, and they have children together, and they save this little old candy store in the town where they're living and really go all in with this community. It's a really good story. It's a really sweet story. And their story is still going on. In fact, they do clips. They did a lot of COVID clips on YouTube. You can follow them on YouTube together. And they're a really cute couple. They're really sweet. So I enjoyed it a lot.
I feel like sweet's probably not something that normally people think about when they think of like Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yes.
The roles you've played. So that's interesting. That's neat.
Yeah.
A different side of these people.
Yes.
All right. Awesome. Let's see. Kristen, what do you want to talk about next?
Okay, so it's another thriller. This one is Hostage by Claire McIntosh. Claire McIntosh is actually one of my favorite writers. I usually check out any book that she writes. I think there's only one book that I haven't read by her. Her favorite book of mine it's called Never Let Me Go. No, is that right? Let Me Go? I can't even remember. Sorry about that. I should have wrote it down. Anyways, it was her first book. It was really great. You should check that one out. That one's my favorite. This is pretty close up on my list by her, though. So this book takes place half of it takes place on an airplane, half of it takes place in the UK. We are getting the story of Adam and Mina Holbrook. Mina is a flight attendant, and they are going through kind of a rough spot in their marriage. And Mina she decided to volunteer for this first 20-hour nonstop flight from London to Sydney. And so it's this, so they're midway through the 20-hour flight. She gets handed this note telling her that she must follow the instructions or her child's not going to be safe. So Adam and Mina have a child they adopted together. And so not only are we getting the hostage situation going on with Mina on the airplane, but we're also getting the situation going on at home with Adam and Sophia, their child. And Adam is a police officer who is also somehow they are also involved in this interesting hostage situation going on the plane, because the hijackers are a group of people who have been planning this for a very long time, and they somehow are able to get it figured out to where they can also affect all of these things going on. It's very interesting how all of the events can coincide. We get so we're getting Mina and Adam's viewpoint. We're also getting some of the viewpoints from the hijackers. So each chapter kind of goes back and forth with Mina, Adam, and the hijackers. So it's kind of like almost like a diary entry from the hijackers. We also, so, you know, everything kind of comes together at the end. Not gonna say anything, but just when you kind of think you've had it figured out and the end happens, there's just kind of like this little twist and you're just like, what? And her books, they do that to you. Like, there's always that tiny, like, sometimes it's a tiny twist, sometimes it's a bigger twist, but there's always like this twist where you don't really see it coming and it kind of just stops you in your tracks and you're just like, wait, what just happened here? And that was how this book was. But like, one of her books, it happens in the middle of the book, but this book, it happens like at the end. So yeah, you have to wait till the end for that twist, but it does happen. So like, it just kind of blows you away. I mean, I don't know. Like for me, it did. I didn't see that coming. So, and I'm usually pretty good at figuring things out. Didn't hit.
This has like one of my favorite kind of storytelling things where, you know, it takes place just on the plane, right? Where it's all sort of mostly in one setting. And I always find that really interesting. It's kind of an interesting way to tell a story where you're kind of locked into one spot. So this seems really interesting to me. I'm definitely intrigued by it.
Yeah, and it's done. I think it's done pretty well. I don't know. I think this is the first time I've read a book like this where it's like all in one spot. Well, besides the other like the alternating chapters, but it was really good. Like it's probably not my most favorite book by her. Like it's up there. But yeah, it's good. That twist though at the end, gotta stick around for it.
You really have me on the hook now. I need to read it to figure out what this is. All right, Sherry, what do you want to talk about next?
So mine is another thriller, The Sinful Lives of Trophy Wives by Kristen Miller. If I had to describe it in just 3 words, it would be deliciously, decadently dark. It's mostly the story of 3 women. So Brooke Davies and her tech mogul husband move into Presidio Terrace. Brooke seems like your stereotypical trophy wife, but she's got some secrets. But it seems like everyone in this exclusive community has those. Erin King's the wife of a plastic surgeon and a successful news anchor who walks out on her job and suspects her husband is cheating on her. And then Georgia St. Clair, who might be the most interesting, is dubbed the Black Widow by the press since she's lost 2 rich husbands so far. And they both died unexpectedly. And now she's engaged to another rich man. So then Georgia's fiance goes missing right before their wedding off of their yacht. And you have to figure out, is he her latest victim, or are all these secrets that these women hold about to explode? It's wildly entertaining, completely unexpected. And I think if you like Leanne Moriarty and you're waiting for her next book, this one might be the one for you while you're waiting.
That sounds pretty good, and a good recommendation too, based on the author. I like that. All right, Chris, what is your last book of the day?
My last book today is called The Looking Glass Wars by Frank Bedore. It was published in 2006, and I did read it that long ago. It's a book for teens, and apparently it's really popular somewhere because they've also adapted it into a graphic novel. It's the number 1 book in the trilogy that I read. Like I said, I read years ago. I recommend it all the time to teens here in Fenton, and they always turn their nose up at me. I can't stress how much they're missing by not reading this trilogy. So I hope if you're watching today that you will give this little series a chance, because it's really a wonderful telling of Alice in Wonderland. It's an alternate reality to the story that Disney has presented to you over the years. This book is set in Victorian London, and Alice, spelled capital ALYSS, is the new heir to the Wonderland throne. She befriends Lewis Carroll and to tell her story, because she has run away from Wonderland and she wants her story to be told. However, Lewis Carroll gets it all wrong. And the royal bodyguard, who is Hatter Madigan, he is sent to track her down because he knows the true story, and he needs to find the heir to the throne of Wonderland. So throughout this book, there is a ton of action, lots of drama, description of the weapons and kind of the war that is going on in Wonderland because of this hostile takeover that the Red Queen is trying to do. So what I really loved about this book and this trilogy is that it challenges everything that you think you know about Alice in Wonderland. And I can't recommend it enough.
Do you need to know anything about Alice in Wonderland to really enjoy it? Or do you find kind of extra things and references that you might appreciate more if you know a bit about Alice in Wonderland?
So going into it, I mean, again, I read this a long time ago. My familiarity with it was whatever Disney told me. So I feel like you don't really need to know a whole lot to be able to understand the story and really, really get a lot out of it.
Awesome. Excellent. All right. Nancy, what do you want to talk about next?
I read some nonfiction. It's called The Life of Death, The Bare Bones of Undertaking, and it's written by Ralph Rosell, and he's the owner, the son who took over the Rosell Funeral Home in Flushing. So that's very near the Montrose Library, and then Flushing is Kristen's library. So this book is awesome. It tells how he worked in his uncle's funeral home and how his father bought it out, and then how he and his brother bought out their father. And he also gives a lot of the Flushing history, which is really nice to read. And he tells a lot of stories, a lot of death stories, and a lot of cadaver stories and corpse stories. And for some reason, I'm very squeamish, but I find these stories fascinating. I don't think I could ever work with a cadaver, but I find those stories fascinating. And if you like this book, I have also read nonfiction by Caitlin Dowdy. She wrote Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory, and Will My Cat Eat My Eyeballs? Big Questions from Tiny Mortals About Death, and From Here to Eternity, Traveling the World to Find the Good Death. So although Caitlin Dowdy owns a funeral home. So I read all three of her books, and then when I saw this one and realized it was written by our funeral director in Flushing, for sure I wanted to read this one too. So it's really good.
I didn't think I'd hear the word corpse story today, and I got a whole new genre of writing, and I'm really interested. I think there are people who would be into this. I think they'll know exactly who they are hearing you speak about it.
Yeah, it's creepy and good.
And it's neat that it's so local too. That's really cool.
Yeah, I didn't realize he wrote this book in November. It was published in November of 2017.
Neat. All right. Let's see, Kristen, what do you want to talk about next? What's your last book here?
Yeah, and just FYI, we do have that book in our library too, in the Flushing Library. If anybody's looking for it, I'm sure it's at other branches as well. So my last book to talk about is The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. This book just came out in July, and it is available at branches because I just actually got my copy back today for the Flushing branch. So if anybody wants to check it out. This author has also wrote the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I did look up the title, and just FYI, the other title by Claire McIntosh that I wanted to tell you about was I Let You Go, just to verify. So Final Girl Support Group is about the final girls. You're thinking about like horror movies. They're the final girls. They're the ones left standing when all the credits roll. But this time they're the ones who are the real life final girls, and they kind of all come together to support each other as like group therapy. So Lynette Tarkington is a real life final girl, and she survived a massacre 22 years ago, and it's kind of defined her like everyday life. And she's not alone because there are other women who she's met, 5 other final girls and their therapist, and they have a support group for each other. And they're kind of trying to put their lives back together. But one day they go to meet, and one of the women is missing. And that's really unusual because they always get together for their group therapy. And but the thing is that nobody outside of their group knows about this therapy. So now that one of them is missing, that's like really, really bad, because that means that somebody may know about this group. So Lynette is determined to figure out what's going on, like who knows about this group, and why are all these things now happening. So like basically what happens is the girl that's missing, something bad happens to her. And then all of a sudden, like, really bad things start happening to all of the girls in the support group. And Lynette's trying to figure out, like, why are these things happening and who's doing them. So again, it's another thriller. It's another who did it kind of thing. To me, it was, so, like, I figured out half of it, which sounds really weird, but I kind of, like, there's, like, some moments in the book where you're like, oh, that makes sense, because they were trying to pin it on this person, so you're like, well, that's kind of obviously a red herring. But then, so then I kind of figured out, like, part of it, and then the other part kind of was like, oh, wait, I didn't see that coming. But I really like this book. I actually really like Grady Hendrix's writing. This is only my second book by him that I've read, but it's very, I will, like, admittedly, his writing is very violent, but I like the way he tells a story. It's kind of funny and, like, dry, but also, like, not dry in a like, it's like a sarcastic kind of way. It's just really entertaining, but also just, like, a really good story. I really like this book. You could see it, like, as a movie, I guess, but I wouldn't watch it because I don't like horror movies, which makes no sense. So, but definitely recommend if you like thrillers, if you like horror books. Yeah, it's overall just a really excellent book that I really liked.
You were telling me about this book, and then a few days later, I saw a video about it on TikTok, and I requested it and ordered it, but it turns out it wasn't the same book. It is a completely different book called Final Girls by Riley Sager. Have you heard of that?
Yes,
The
I've also
description
read that
sounded
one.
so similar. Was that good?
Yes, it was good, but I actually like this one better.
Okay.
They're different. They're completely, they sound similar, but they're completely different. I think that the only, like, real similarities is that they both deal with final girls. But they, I don't know. I just kind of like this one better. I thought this one was maybe because there was, like, more humor to it. I kind of like that. I don't know.
Well, that's what I
But-
wanted to hear. If I
and
had to
I
pick
liked-
which one do I pick? So there we go. I didn't expect you to have read both, but that was really convenient that you had.
I definitely like Grady Hendrix book. I like this one better.
All right. Okay, Sherry, you can take us home. What is your last recommendation here?
So my last one is So We Meet Again by Suzanne Park. It's a romance, but I wouldn't say it's completely focused on the romance, if that makes sense. So Jessie Kim is working her way up the ladder on Wall Street until she is unceremoniously let go because she isn't quote unquote leadership material. So she heads home to Nashville to try to figure out what to do with her life. She decides while she's there to resurrect a YouTube channel that she hasn't had time to nurture. And it's a cooking channel based on Korean food because her family's Korean. She also runs into her childhood nemesis, Daniel. Jessie and Daniel were always being compared by their parents, and each one felt the other one was winning the competition. So they still don't totally trust each other, but there's definitely an attraction. And Daniel is home. It kind of seems mysterious because he's a big shot lawyer in California, but he's home on a sabbatical. So you kind of don't know what's going on with him. But the characters are really well developed. They're also hilarious, especially Jessie's parents. Her mom kind of unceremoniously makes an appearance on her first YouTube cooking channel show back. And everyone just goes wild for her mom because her mom, like, corrects her on her cooking techniques. And then she ends up dragging the dad in to taste test the food and decide which way he likes best. So it was really good. It'll make you hungry for Korean food. And I also learned there's, like, a Dolly Parton themed bar in Nashville that really makes me want to go there. So this one was just really fun, really light, a good summer read, I would say.
Muted. There we go. Can you hear me?
Now I can.
There we go. Yeah, I think there's still time for good summer reads too, right? The summer's still here. We're only in August. We still have time for that, so that's good. All right, that's all the books we were going to talk about today. There's one more really quick. I know that Chris is reading, and I've started reading, and we talked about reading it before. And I'll put it up here in case anybody wants to read along and talk about it with us next month. And that is Outlawed by Anna North. If you want to get a copy, if you're listening at home and want to get a copy, let us know. We can help order a copy for you from the library. And I'm sure we'll be talking about a lot of other cool books next month. All right. Thank you, everyone. Did you guys have fun?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Yes,
yeah.
I love this.
And thank you, everybody who is watching at home. We actually had, I think, our highest number of live watchers throughout the show this time. So that's really cool. Usually most of the people watch after the fact. So if you are watching this after the fact, that's great. Leave us some comments. Let us know what you think about these books. And we'll be back next month to talk about more. Take care, everyone.
Bye.